Good morning. Welcome to the Dynasty Dugout Show. It is Thursday, March the 7th. Ball. It's always a good day to talk baseball, especially to talk minor league ball, and that's what we are going to do today. And we dive in on the San Diego Padres farm system and also talk a little bit about yesterday's spring training action. So, obviously, the Padres have a great system, a lot of fun names to discuss, especially one who they just signed this year in January. And it looks like he might be up sooner than later. But let's talk some prospects in spring training first. Dylan Cruz, he had a excellent day yesterday. He had a homer, he had a double. He reached a third time on an error. Two of the batted balls had exit velocities of 105.8 and 102.4. Seemed like kind of faded Cruz. I don't think that was the right choice. I stuck by the decision that Cruz was still a top guy in the class. Langford obviously outperformed him. Langford was an absolute stud and absolutely deserved to be at the top of all FYPD rankings. I am very, very excited about what Dylan Cruz still brings to the table. Look at this profile, and you see a guy that has big power. He's got great on base skills, and he makes contact in an elite clip. I don't think people realize what a great hitter he is as far as the contact skills. You look last year, he did some incredible things at LSU, obviously. And then you look at the skill set, and it's certainly something that will play very well fancy. I think he's going to run more. He hit in the middle of the LSU lineup, and I think that now he's not going to have that role of having to drive in these guys. He was in the elite college lineup. I think he's going to steal some bases. So Dylan Cruz, that was an excellent showing there. Bounce back. Ahmed Rosario is not a prospect, but he is showing some really good things. I mean, I signed him for $1.5 million, and it's really paid off so far, at least. Is he going to play every day with the big league club? Maybe he's in a platoon. We shall see. Homered off Paul Skeens the other day. Another homer yesterday. 102 off the bat off Luis Hill. He has looked good so far. He was a Driveline this offseason. So the Driveline, wonder, maybe it works out. He's a low-risk investment, and maybe it pans out. So I like his shot on Ahmed Rosario pretty late. Angel Martinez, who I wrote up yesterday in Cleveland, is having one of the more underrated springs. He is now up to 571, 563, 1143 slash and 16 plate appearances. Yes, a very small sample. But Martinez is a very high contact bat. 80% contact rate last year. He had 14 homers and 42 extra base hits in 2023. Maybe he impacts Cleveland's lineup at some point this year. Ray and Roki was slated to start at shortstop, but there's some openings, and Angel Martinez can move around. Very versatile. Really like the profile. By the way, don't worry about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I saw people were kind of like fading him some. It was very odd to see people happy that he was not pitching well. I would assume that's people who are just bitter that he signed with their team. But Yamamoto allowed 5 of 6 hits were field hits. So you look at that, and it's like, man, those things ultimately should not have all gone for hits. It was kind of weird to watch that play out. But Yamamoto did struggle with the breaking ball location some. There are some defensive struggles, obviously, for the Dodgers. He fell behind in counts early. But if you're worried about this, then I just tell you not to be. If you're in a dynasty league with me and you want to trade him, I will gladly take Yoshinobu Yamamoto off your hands because there is nothing to worry about. Andy Pages, I think Pages is going to force his hands with the Dodgers. He's someone who has looked really, really good so far this spring. And he was looking really good last year as well. And then he had tore his labrum. So to see him step back in and to do what he has done so far has been incredible. Last year, going into the season, he cut 25 pounds of weight. Ultimately, was much more athletic. He made much more contact. For a power hitter making 78% contact, yes, it was a small sample of 34 games. He got hurt, but I'm very excited about Pages. I think he's going to force the Dodgers' hand. Maybe he doesn't break camp. But ultimately, He could be someone that makes an impact on this team with big power, good OBP skills, and improved contact skills. So, Pi has this one to watch out for him. Joe Boyle looked vulnerable yesterday. He did walk 3 guys after no walks in the first 2 spring starts. Still love Boyle. He's got big stuff. The command's going to come and go. You're going to naturally have starts like this with Joe Boyle. Just as what it is. Command is, it's coming up. He himself has questioned how he has more strike throwing ability because he walked 19% of batters in the minor leagues. And all of a sudden, he steps in Oakland and is all of a sudden incredibly good. Joey Estes, on the other hand, he came in behind Joe Boyle and looked like a stud. He threw 3 perfect innings, and he had 5 strikeouts. He flies very much under the radar. He is one that I think has a shot to make Oakland's rotation. Estes was part of the Matt Olson trade, and of all the players that Atlanta has dealt over the years to either Oakland or Chicago, Estes is probably the best one. He posted a 3.74 ERA last year in 137 minor league innings, went deep into starts consistently, and 131 strikeouts to just 43 walks. Low to mid-90s fastball, good slider with sweeping action. Changeup sits mid-80s with 11 inches of fade regularly. I like he also has a cutter to bridge that gap. Estes throws a lot of strikes too. Joey Estes is one that I think may be a really solid guy. And shout out to Nate Handy, who has been very high on Estes for a very long time. Nate Handy, part of the B-size prospect podcast. Check that out. All right, enough of yesterday's action. We're here to talk some Padres prospects. Let's do it. Jackson Merrill at the top of the system. He was selected 27th overall in 2021. He was an underslot deal, but a very successful scouting find by the Padres. Since being drafted, he's done nothing but hit. He's shown progress with the hit tool at every level. He's made incredible contact skills. 2022, he jumped on radars because he had a 90% zone contact and 85% overall contact with really, really good exit velocities. Well, he hit a lot to the ground, another point. But then he followed it up this year at higher levels at high A and double A with an 88% zone and 83% overall contact. Jackson Merrill is a plus hitter. He does a lot of things well. If you've watched him this spring, he hits the ball where it's pitched. He's not trying to do too much with it. He sees the ball, he hits it. He is an incredible hitter. You look at Merrill, there's power too. The 9th percentile exit velocities the last 2 years have been firmly above average or plus. The interesting thing is, it really doesn't turn into game power. Well, why not? Well, the ground ball rate is one of the biggest concerns. We did see some improvements this year. In 2022, he had a 59% ground ball rate. This year, it dropped closer to 40%, and he did hit 15 home runs. I think that he's going to be an incredibly high floor bat, and I think he's going to get into seasons where he hits 20 to 25 homers. The power is there. This is a young kid. I think that Jackson Merrill actually breaks camp with this team. And call me crazy, but I think it's a real possibility. Yes, he's a 20-year-old. He'll be 21 mid-April. But to begin the season, 20 years old. This is exactly the Padres' MO. They are aggressive with their hitters like this. We've seen it time and time again. And I think that Jackson Merrill is just the next one that steps up. He's not opening day. He's versatile. You've seen him this spring being in center field, in left field. He can play shortstop. He can play third base. So when we look at Jackson Merrill, I think this is somebody that's ready. That kind of hit tool is very advanced. And Jackson Merrill can step in this lineup. He's got such a high floor. I think he can contribute now, and he's such a safe bet. Look at his frame. He's 6'3", 200. I bet he taps into more exit velocity and power over time. He's successful on the base paths. He's not the fastest runner, but he is successful. So I look at this profile and think Jackson Merrill is ready to play for the San Diego Padres. And I think that's exactly what they did. We'll see. Maybe, but all reading the tea leaves of everything they said, how they're using him. I think this is the guy that breaks camp on opening day. Maybe this next guy doesn't break camp, but he's certainly fast track to the majors, and that's Ethan Salas. I told you last year that a 16-year-old catcher would be getting major league spring training reps. You believe? Probably not. What if I told you this guy reached double A shortly after turning 17 years old, a high school junior age? This is exactly what Ethan Salas did. 17 years old, signed for $5.8 million last January, but his maturity is well beyond his age. For someone to step into the minors in full season ball and do what he did, it's incredibly impressive. His contact rates, I mean, for his age, stellar. 77.5% overall, 85% zone contact. It's highly impressive in itself. And then you factor in that he chased at a 20% clip. That's 2% below MLB average. Anything below 20% is like elite. And Ethan Salas did this in full season ball at 17. He hit 9 home runs in 66 games. The exit velocities, pretty elite for a 17-year-old with a wood bat. 87 mile an hour average exit velocity and a ninth percentile of 102 miles an hour. For reference, major league average ninth percentile is 103.5 miles an hour. This kid was 17 doing this, a young 17. It's elite when you compare it to people his age. You look at the frame, I think there's room for more. And we know that typically guys add 3 to 4 miles an hour of exit velocity up into about their age 22 season. So there's no reason to believe that Ethan Salas won't tap into more power. The contact skills are there. He is excellent behind the plate. I mean, you look at him, I think there's everything to dream of him being a very high floor and high ceiling catcher. Now, he probably doesn't debut this year. I know they fast track guys, but that would be insane. But I do think he debuts in 2025. He would only be 19 years old, but I do think he debuts. I think that with the way they pushed him, the way they talk about him, the way they've utilized him, this is a potential top 5 major league catcher who I am all in on. Talk a couple pitchers. Robbie Snelling. Snelling is an excellent athlete. He was a 4-star linebacker recruit going to LSU. That speaks a lot of volume. He's going to play linebacker at LSU, and he's going to play baseball there also. So this kid has focused on pitching for 1 year, and you saw what he did last year. Making his double A, combined all levels, he pitched 103 innings, had a 1.82 ERA with 118 strikeouts and 34 walks. Stanley was a guy that there was a couple concerns with him when they drafted him. It was the fastball velocity, and he was the command. And what did he do? I thought he showed very good skills for both because the fastball velocity ticked up throughout the year. He set low 90s early on, but as the season progressed, he was hitting 93, 94, topping out at 96. He threw it for plenty of strikes. He generated whiffs at the top of the zone. Robbie Snelling looks like a dude. He throws a curveball sitting in the lower 80s. It sometimes morphs into a slider shape at times, but it does feature 2 plane breaks. He throws it in the zone. He throws it out of the zone and gets some chips on it. He runs it away from left-handed hitters, but also he throws it to the back foot of righties. His changeup, probably the biggest development pitch that he has to do and to prove. He needs to show more separation from the fastball, which is the first thing. But it does show nice traits at times. It has nice depth. He runs away from righties to lefty. This could be a very good third offering. Snelling is an upper tier prospect. He's actually, I think he's a top tier of pitching prospects. This is the kind of talent we're looking at. So you look at the top, you look at like your Paul Skeens, you look at your Jackson Jobs, your Cade Hortons, Ricky Tiedemans. I think Robbie Snelling has placed himself among those names. If the fastball sits consistently 95 this year, even 94, and the changeup develops, All right. I am all in on Robbie Snelling. The next pitcher I want to talk about, Drew Thorpe, who came over in a trade. You know that he was with the Yankees. Thorpe probably had the best year of any pitching prospect in the minors. It was almost resemblant of Gavin Stone's 2022 season. You look, they both are changeup heavy, and then they dominated. Thorpe posted a 2.52 ERA between high A and double A last season and a 1.48 ERA in five double A starts in 30 innings that he pitched. This was an absolutely dominant performance. He shows the ability to pitch into deep in the games. He threw 139 innings across 23 starts. He averaged over 6 innings per start. This is something that I love to look at and see is how are these pitching prospects handling workloads? And Drew Thorpe absolutely handled his workload well. The interesting thing is, I don't think the fastball is all that good right now. He did this without a great fastball. He struck out 182 batters last year in 139 innings. He threw strikes at a high clip, but it was the changeup that did most of the damage. I think the changeup's a 70 grade pitch. When you look, it's 82 to 85. It shows incredible depth and fade, but it's one of those pitches that gets on you late. So it was dominant, and then it completely falls off the map. Drew Thorpe, changeup dominant. The fastball set in the 91 to 93 range. It was actually a couple ticks higher than it was in 2022 in college. But despite the lower velocity, it actually gets decent ride. But I am concerned about the shape. It does play up a little bit due to its exceptional command. Like he just locates that pitch so well. But with Thorpe, I'd like to see it tick up. And I'd like to see the shape improve just a hair. Even if it doesn't, I still think this is a very high floor pitcher. He mixes the slider well. It's a mid 80s pitch. It generates whiff. He throws a cutter. He throws a curveball. But honestly, the three pitches that he focuses the most on fastball, changeup, and slider. Plus command and control. He's efficient, deep into starts. His future outlook would probably take a step forward if the fastball did improve. Right now, I think he's a high floor mid rotation starter. There is a chance that this does tick up. He could be an SP2 type. The fastball improves. Not knock on, no knock at all. He's a very, very good starting pitcher. Let's talk a little Leo DeVries. This is so interesting to me. DeVries was the Padres' top international signing and ultimately by far the top international guy. We know that the Padres have success year over year on this international market. It's just, I mean, they scout it well and they sign the top guys year over year. This is exactly what they did with DeVries. He has long been considered the top prospect in this 2024 international signing class. He's a 6'2" switch hitter. He's 17 years old. He shows a good feel and a good swing from both sides of the plate with really good plate discipline. His run times are plus right now. There's potential plus power. Eric Longenhagen quoted the Fangraphs. He quoted an international scout and said this: "Everything is at least plus," which is crazy. The profile of international players is highly volatile, and so you wonder, like, how will this work out? But the Padres have brought Leo DeVries stateside. Last Friday, it was reported by Sammy Levitt. Good morning, Padres fans. Leo DeVries is here. They didn't even give him some high number. They gave this kid number 21. Normally, these guys have like 99 or 87 or something like that. He's out here playing in minor league inter squad games. He's a 17-year-old, and he's doing a really good job at it. I think DeVries actually starts stateside. This is not. I would not put it past the Padres to do this. We've seen him do it in the past. Look at last year, Ethan Salas. I think they're doing it again here. because he's so advanced. It absolutely makes sense for the Padres to start Leo DeVries stateside, especially considering the complex league starts sooner. Now that it's starting in early May, he can be at the complex, which he is right now. He can spend an extra month in extended spring training, which he probably needs before. And then at the beginning of May, he's ready to go at the complex level. After that, he probably goes to single A. Maybe they don't push this kid as fast as they did Ethan Salas, but I firmly think that Leo DeVries is on the fast track. I'm very excited to see what he can do in game action because this kid, I think, has the potential to be one of the top prospects in baseball. And the Padres have done it again, folks. They've found, scouted, and signed the top guy in the international market. So don't be shocked when DeVries starts at the complex, moves up to single A, and don't be surprised when he performs really well. Also, another guy that I wouldn't be shocked if he performs really well and breaks out this year. That's Dylan Lesko. Lesko was one of the more impressive prep arms in recent memories. He was this guy out of Georgia who was absolutely dominant. I missed seeing him by a week. I was scheduled to go see him. He had Tommy John, which sucked. He went down that start the week before I was going to see him. But Tommy John surgery did not deter the Padres from signing him 15th overall. He missed all of 2022, obviously. He returned in 2023, and he had 33 across 3 levels. So not a ton, but he struck out 52 batters in those 33 innings. He did post a 5.45 ERA. Good news. The stuff was there. The arsenal looked really good. The concerning thing was that he struggled with command and strike throwing. He threw strikes at just a 58% clip. You've seen me talk about this a lot. 63% is average for minor leaguers. So 5% below average there, strike throwing. This is a little bit to be expected from a pitcher returning from TJ. I think that the bigger indication will be how does he look throwing strikes this year? Fastball was 95. Excellent. It was really good carry at the top of the zone. It had, IBB numbers hitting 20 inches consistently, which is elite. The changeup. Talks about Drew Thorpe's changeup. Dylan Lesko might have a 70 grade changeup as well. This changeup is really, really good. You look at it, it's a bread and butter of his arsenal. He sells it really well. It plays off the fastball really good. Has a good separation from the velo fastball wise, and it dives off with late fading action. Third pitch is a mid-70s changeup. It's kind of a 12-6 shape at times. It's a lot of downward movement. It's a high spinning pitch. He doesn't land it for strikes often at all. It does flash potential. He does get chased out of the zone with it. I think that given that Dylan Lesko had a 15-mile-an-hour separation between the fastball and the changeup, he could really benefit from adding a slider or a cutter. I think that would be the step forward that I'm looking for this year. A year removed from TJ, another year removed from him, actually. I am curious to see what Lesko looks like in 2024. There is potential for Lesko to vault to the top of his Padres system. No doubt in my mind that he can really fly upwards. I like Lesko a lot, but those are the things I'll be watching for is location and strike throwing, and does he add another pitch to hit that bridge gap? 15-mile-an-hour separation in the fastball and changes a decent bit. So I'd like to see that potentially bridge pitch. The next guy, Jairo Iriarte. Jairo Iriarte is spectacular. He signed for just $75K all the way back in 2018. He's had an up and down career, at least until last year. And then after a ton of hard work, room, adding strength, he was sitting 96, 97 consistently. And this fastball is incredible. You watch this thing, it generates ride and run. This thing moves insane for a pitch that sits 96, 97. He gets a ton of whiffs from hitters. He runs it in on righties. He's running away from lefties. Then he throws this devastating slider in the mid 80s. He gets a ton of sweep, he gets downward action, and he throws it to both of the hitters as well. It's a go-to swing and miss pitch. He throws a changeup. It sits actually close to 90, which is wild. Tunneling well off the fastball, late diving action. This pitch is solid third off. He puts the ball on the ground and he allows contact, but he gets whiffs on it as well. This is an electric arm. It does come with a pretty violent delivery. The command's improved, but another step forward to ensure that he can be a starter long term. Like you look at what he did in 2023, I thought he took steps forward that tell me this kid could be a starting pitcher. I think he's got high K mid rotation upside here, but I do think it is a volatile profile. So one to watch pretty closely. Jairo Iriarte, a really fun pitching prospect who should pitch in the majors this year. I am very excited to watch and see what he can do. Let's talk some hitters. We've run through some pitchers, but Graham Polley. Graham Polley was a very under the radar collegiate bat out of Duke, 13th rounder in 2022. He performed extremely well in 2023. He really popped on my radar early with some really good exit velocities. He had one of the best barrel rates in the minors early from hitting at ideal launch angles, and he performed. 23 homers, 22 stolen bases, 308, 393, 539 slash line between two levels. He reached AA, and honestly, he got better at every stop. He hits the sweet spot, which is ideal launch angles more often than not. The exit velocities play closer to average. He had a 103 mile an hour ninth percentile, but the angles help this power play up to above average. From a contact standpoint, Graham Polley made contact in 87% of pitches in zone, which is incredible. And he had an overall contact rate north of 80%, chased 20% of pitches out of the zone. All three of those highly impressive. While the run times are pretty average, he has good instincts to steal bases, stole 22 bases on 27 attempts. Very good instincts. He checks all the boxes. He's versatile, play second, he can play the corner, he can play outfield. The versatility is huge. He focused on left field in the Arizona Fall League last year. I think the versatility allows Graham Polley to find time in this Padres lineup sooner than later. There's openings. Look at their roster resource page and tell me there's not openings for hitters that are ready to step in. It just is what it is. There's plenty of potential here for Graham Polley to step in and be an impact. Pretty soon. Dylan Head, first rounder in 2023. He's kind of a late riser in that class, but the Padres liked what they saw enough to take him 25th overall. And you look, this is the exact kind of player the Padres has had a lot of success with. This mold, they scout, they find, oh, wait, all the other teams are jumping on this guy too, but the Padres had the early jump. They had made connections with this guy, and it worked out to take him 25th. From a pure tool standpoint, Head's got it. He was one of the fastest players in the class. He had a 6.3 second 60-yard dash, 70 grade or better run times. He makes a lot of contact. He drives the ball to all fields well. He's got this big leg kick, and some people are concerned about it. But his professional debut, well, a small sample, 85% contact rate. Power right now is gap to gap. But I do think Head could tap into more game power. The power probably ends up below average long term, but if he is a 10 to 15 home run bat that steals 40 plus bases for good average, I don't think you're worried about that home run output all that much. Dylan Head is one that I think could really blossom this year and become a top prospect for sure. Very excited about Head and his potential. Let's talk a little Adam Mazer, who he is someone that's really soaring up boards. I know Prospects Live put him in their top 100 recently, and that's justifiable. I mean, his performance was really, really good last year. He's a very high floor arm with good stuff. Fastball sits mid-90s. He's really saw the fastball tick up He is a heavy strike thrower and command specialist, but when your fastball's hitting 98 and you're locating it well, all right, there's something to work with here. He feels the zone with it. He throws it consistently and locates it. It's a plus pitch. I mean, it really is. I like this pitch a lot. The slider can get up to 90 miles an hour with really late breaking action. It was his highest whiff rate pitch, but he lands it for strikes. Curveball, a good third offering, sitting in the mid 80s, has good 12-6 shape, and he throws a changeup as well in that same velo band. The biggest thing to me with Mazur is just he throws so many strikes, and he's got the arsenal. I mean, this profile could be one that really excels, and he could be fast tracked to the Padres rotation. He's a high floor starting pitcher. He's a starting pitcher through and through. I really love what I've seen from Adam Mazur. So don't be surprised when he continues to be more of a consensus top 100 guy. Others will potentially jump on this too because, I mean, everything supports it. And I've probably been a little low on him. I mean, I know Nate Handy loves him. I mentioned Nate earlier. Nate is really early on some of these guys. So I like this as well. Sammy Zavala, probably the most polarizing player in the system because he has the tools that can push him to the top. Zavala is what you dream on with an athletic outfielder. He signed back in 2021 for 1.2 mil, and he spent most of last year in single A late Bell's. The final 2 weeks of the season, he did go to high A. Between 515 plate appearances last year, he flashed 243, 391, 406. And he hit 203 with a 391 OBP, 406 slug. Really interesting slash line. He walked 18% of the time. He struck out 27% of the time. He hit home runs, and he stole 21 pounds. This is the kind of player, though, that if the contact rates improve, he is going to soar. It's kind of that I think that the shine is worn off a little bit. So if you can invest in him in a dynasty like right now, I probably would because it's a risky move that probably pays off if he does make a little more contact. Here's my concerns with him. He finished the year like 70% zone contact rate and a 67% overall rate. That's highly concerning. The good news is that he had one of the lower chase rates in the minors at just 14%. He has above average speed, power, shows good instincts on the base paths. I think there's 2020 potential here. It's just, does he make enough contact? The end zone contact rate is a huge red flag for me. He's got to improve that. I mean, I would like to see it 75% at least, and that's still below average. So we've talked about these other guys. Graham Polley, like his overall contact rate was 80%, and Zavala's end zone was 70. So we need to see some improvement with the contact, but if it does, Zavala will take off. Another high contact hitter, Jacob Marcy. He is an interesting and polarizing player for me to rank. Successful collegiate career at Central Michigan. He's a sixth rounder in 2022. And now like fully on radar because the season was really good. But people didn't really start catching on until the Arizona fall. They were like, all right, this guy is legit. So between the fall league and the regular season in 2023, he had 21 homers and 686 plate appearances. And he stole 62 bases. 16 of the home runs and 6 stolen bases came in the regular season. Slash line of 286, 413, 428, and Marcy walked more than he struck out. The profile was really interesting to me because this guy, I didn't until I got up close to him in person at the fall league, being on the field for batting practice pregame, chatting with him. Like, this guy is thick. He is filled out. Like, you see Mike Trout. Mike Trout has a thick neck that's really filled out. Like, that's what Jacob Marcy has. This dude is strong. Here's what's the concerning question. The exit velocity. He had an 83.9 mile an hour average exit velocity last year and just a 99.5 mile an hour ninth percentile. Those were like 30 grade power. The home runs suggest there's more power there. And I'm like conflicted because like exit velocities are not good, especially for a player who is already filled out. He does lift the ball with ease, however. He hits the ball at ideal launch angles, and he gets to the pool side pretty. It is worth noting that he spent his 20 most of his 2023 in which has a 318-foot fence in right field, where most of Marcy's home runs left the yard. Now, this is no knock on Jacob Marcy because he does a lot of things well. Hits for contact. He's got great speed. He plays in the field well. But I am concerned about this power and thinking that's a little bit overplayed. I mean, ultimately, I think Marcy is probably a 10 to 15 home run bat that can steal you bases with really good contact skills. I know many are high on that, but I'm just a little lower. I think he's a really high floor bat. He can run high OBPs because the really good plate discipline. I mean, last year, 84.2% overall contact rate and 88.4% zone, elite. Chase rate, 16%, elite. Checks all those boxes. I think the expectations just need to be tempered a little with Jacob Marcy's power. Otherwise, really, really good player who probably does contribute a good bit this year to this team. Nathan Martorella. He is interesting because he was really good after the draft in 2022. Fifth rounder. I thought he was primed to break out. He was a little bit disappointing. He had just 255 with 361 OBP and a 437 slug with 19 homers across 487 plate appearances. He's passive here. He's going to take his walks. Martorella did make contact on 77% of pitches. I mean, that mark's better than the batting average suggests. He has a low chase rate, low 20%. Another guy that's really good plate discipline. So Martorella walked at a 14% clip. The power's good. I mean, his exit velocities were great. The ninth percentile was 106 miles an hour. Nathan Martorella, to me, is a high OBP bat. Obviously, he's a corner infielder, but I think he could hit 20 home runs. The ground ball rate is really the biggest issue. Can we see him at least hit less balls on the ground? Can that ground ball rate trend down for Nathan Martorella? If so, he probably gets more power. So that's something to watch with Nathan Martorella. A couple other guys to hit on here in the system. I like Homer Bush, drafted last year out of Grand Canyon. He was incredible when he debuted last year. He had a really solid season at Grand Canyon University. By the way, it's the same school that top 10 pick Jacob Wilson attended. So GCU, that's not a legit. Jacob Wilson played there. Very high contact hitter. He was 83% overall, 87% end zone, chase below 20%. The power was a bit concerning for sure because the average EV in college with metal was 81 miles an hour. The ninth percentile was 98. The good news is that he is a great source of speed and stolen bases. In 44 professional games, Homer Bush Jr. stole 22 bags on 24 attempts. You look at this kid, and he has a frame that I think could fill out. 6'3", 200 pounds. I don't see why Homer Bush doesn't fill out at all. I am very intrigued by what Homer Bush can do. And I think this guy is pretty underrated. I'm in on Homer Bush as a deeper type dynasty play. Very intrigued here. Another guy, Eggy Rosario. It's spelled Eguy, E-G-U-Y. Eggy is the pronunciation. I thought he was going to spend most of the year in the majors in 2023. I mean, he reached the big leagues in 2022, but he had a fractured ankle that kept him out most of the season. And when he came back, he had 56 games between AAA and the majors. He's a bit undersized, but he shows good versatility. He has good power. The exit velocities are right at average on MLB standards. He's an aggressive hitter, like 52% swing rate, 38% chase is very high, but he makes it work. Rosario did have an 81% zone contact and a 75% overall contact rate last year. I think he's a utility guy, but he's a utility guy that San Diego absolutely loves. Don't be shocked when Eddie Rosario makes a little bit of impact for the Padres this year. Maybe he starts in AAA, but this is the type of guy who could step right in and perform. I'm very intrigued by Eggy. I love Eggy a lot. Victor Lizarraga, 20-year-old right-handed pitcher, signed for a mill back in 2021. He skipped the DSL, went straight to the complex. He spent the entire 2022 season at single A as an 18-year-old, which he posted really good numbers. He had a 3.43 ERA, 94 innings. They followed that up in 2023 with a 4.09 ERA in high A 2023. He's not striking out guys, which is interesting. 19% K rate. He had an 11% swinging strike rate, and he threw strikes in a below average clip. But Lizarraga is still very young. His fastball sits 92. I think the frame kind of suggests that we can see the power tick up a bit. The curveball is probably his best secondary, maybe his best pitch overall. Nice downward action since the 70s. And the changeup and slider, both kind of distant offerings, but one that I do think, if he improves one of those two pitches, I think he becomes a pretty viable starting pitcher. Pretty intrigued by him, as I am Jagger Haynes. Haynes was a surprise pick in 2020 because this draft was shortened. A lot of teams took picks that they were more sure on, and a lot of these fringe prep guys went to college. Jagger Haynes was a 17-year-old left-handed pitcher with a short track record out of North Carolina. He had Tommy John surgery after the draft. He was a fifth rounder, and he didn't pitch until 2023. He had 25 innings in single A Lake Elsinore last year, where he struck out 29 batters, walked 11. Considering the return from Tommy John, I thought he looked pretty good. He missed bats. He threw strikes at a good clip at a 13.3% swinging strike rate. Prior to the surgery, as a 17-year-old, the fastball was in the mid-90s. He showed good feel for a slider and change. Jagger Haynes is one that I think you should watch very carefully this year. As somebody that I think could really pop off and break out. 6'3" lefty. Really like this profile with Jagger Haynes. So watch out for him. I'm excited to see what he can do. As is this guy, Cannon Kim, another prep guy who they drafted this past summer in 2023. He's a 6'6" righty. Signed him away from his commitment to Oklahoma. He has a fastball that's in the lower 90s, but reaches 95. Big frame, plenty of room to fill out. I think Kim is really interesting. The slider looked good last year as a prep. He throws a good fading changeup. Big frame. Obviously, you want to see him pitch stateside, but I am excited to watch Cannon Kim, a 19-year-old, 6'6" right-handed pitcher. Marcos Castellon, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I hope so. He's an underrated bat in the system. He's been around for a while, 24 years old, but he hit 3 homers in 2022, and he had a good season in 2023 when he hit 17 homers while slashing 284, 345, 468. He's a pretty aggressive hitter. He made it work. He had a good contact rate above minor league average, and he showed the ability to get some high exit velocities. Marcos Castellon, I'm pronouncing that right. Juan Murillo, 21-year-old outfielder. He signed in 2022 out of Cuba for just $15K, but he's looking rather good for that signing bonus. He's done some good things. I think there's some projection on the frame. I think that with a little more weight on the frame and some bat speed, he could potentially add more power. He's one that he has a slash line in 78 professional career games of 303, 368, 475. He has 7 homers and 16 stolen bases. Juan Murillo has struck out 24% of the time and with a 7% walk rate. An intriguing frame, just an interesting profile to keep an eye on here. This is Daniel Montesino. Montesino feels like he's been hyped and around for a while. He had a really good performance after he signed in 2021. He got a mill. He played in the DSL, and Montesino dominated. 316, 444, 490. And he seemed like a major breakout in 2022. But instead, he unfortunately had Tommy John surgery. He missed the entire year. He returned in 2023 to the complex level where the results were not so great. He did not hit a home run. He had 10 extra base hits. I do think there's some intrigue here with Daniel Montesino, and I think that 2024 could be a big bounce back year for him. So one to keep an eye on. A couple other names that I potentially like their deeper cuts. Blake Dickerson, a left-handed pitcher. JD Gonzalez, catcher. Rosman Verdugo, kind of versatile infield type. Lamar King Jr., a catcher who they drafted in 2022. These guys, I do think, have the potential to kind of move up boards and become pretty intriguing type of players. The Padres system has a ton of talent at the top. No surprise, it's an org that consistently has a lot of guys and several young guys that they traded for this year. Randy Vasquez. Vasquez may start this year. I think he may still be prospect eligible. We've seen him start and make appearances for the Yankees. Johnny Brito, another one that I think makes a good impact on this rotation, who I am rather intrigued by. So you look at the system, and it obviously has more talent at the top than it does depth, but that doesn't mean there's not depth that could pop off. Like I mentioned, I'm way higher on Jagger Haynes than most. He's one that I think pops off and could move up boards pretty significantly. This is Keenan Kemp, who I really like a lot. So they do well scouting. Something the Padres do exceptionally well. They scout and they develop. I know some guys have regressed, but I love the Padres system in org. Obviously, we want to see them produce at the major league level, but to see the talent that they have, and to see the upside in the farm, and the young guys and their potential to step in. Like I said, Jackson Merrill, opening day for me. I think he breaks camp with the team. Graham Polley. I think Graham Polley contributes very soon. Jacob Marcy contributes very soon. Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito. These young guys, they can step right in and contribute. So look out for the Padres' young kids this year. This is an org that's chock full of talent. Look out for Leo DeVries to just make a major step forward. How much do they push Ethan Salas? He probably gets to play. And I don't think he debuts this year. I wouldn't write it off. And Robbie Snelling debut this year? Maybe. Not a real possibility. Drew Thorpe is certainly going to pitch innings in the major league rotation this year. He's a high floor and ready. Dylan Lesko, can he be healthy? He may pitch in the major league rotation. So a ton of guys that are very close, but also a ton of young talent too. This Padre system is a lot of fun. Thank you for hanging out with me today. This will be up on YouTube if you missed it or came in later. Thank you for hanging out with us today. This has been the Thursday, March 7th edition of the Dynasty Dugout Show, talking San Diego Padres prospects. Until tomorrow, catch us tomorrow morning, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Hope you'll join us. We're wrapping up the National League tomorrow with the San Francisco Giants top prospects and talking all things you need to know from spring training. Hope we'll see you then, and hope you guys have an awesome Thursday. Enjoy.